Hello class, let's complete homework 4 or week report number 4. This one is a little bit more complicated than week report number 3. So let's get started. First, let's open VS Code. So I'm going to put this on the side. Perfect. So over here inside the week's reports folder, I am going to create a new file and I'm going to call this one week report wr4.md, right? And this has, just gonna copy this from the previous report so I don't have to type it. And now let's create the general structure of this document. So first, what we have here, we already did number 1, so let's move along to number 2. This report is gonna have several sections. So let's start with the title. So we're gonna call this week report 4. And then we have the first section over here, which is practice from the presentations. So practice from the presentations. And we have the next section here, which is the Linux file system and directories and their purpose. Okay, so this section over here. Next, this section here. And finally, basic terminology. Okay, now I'm going to start with basic terminology. So include the following definitions. So all we have to do is just copy this. Paste it here, again, Control Shift down for multi-line editing, good, Control Shift down, and I'm just gonna make these bullet points, and I'm also gonna bold each and every one of these terms. Type definition here. Okay. Make sure you type your definition right over there. And this is the overall structure of this part here. Good. Now I would like to talk about this table here that I want you to do. Now, in the presentation, the Linux file system, we cover 3 main commands: pwd, cd, and the ls command. What I want you to do is, I want you to write a table very similar to this one. I use this with examples of commands that we used in the past, but you are going to use the cd, pwd, and ls command. Now, if you want to see how the table looks like in Markdown, this table looks like this in Markdown. So your table should look like this. So we are going to start with the structure of the table. Notice that I left a space on the top and a space in the bottom. Then here we put name of command, so command. Then we put what it does. Then we put syntax, which is the general formula on how to use the command. And finally, we have an example of the command. So we're going to put example over here. That's, right there. Perfect. And I'm just gonna format this real quick. Format document. Good. Then, for example, let's say that the first command, which is pwd. What does pwd does? Well, it prints current directory. And then, what is the syntax? Simple. The syntax is typing pwd. And finally, an example using code formatting. Remember the backtick for formatting a piece of Word like code? you simply have to type pwd for the command to work, right? You're gonna do the same thing with cd, what it does, a syntax, and then an example of using the cd command. You do not need to describe the example, just put an example over there. I'm just gonna format my document, right? And then you also need to do cd, then description here, then syntax here, and then example here. Again, this needs to be formatted in code. Same thing for the ls, description here, syntax here, it's a typo on the top, and then example here. Remember to leave a space before and after, and then format code. Here's how your table looks like. Let's do a little preview. Yeah, this is how your table is gonna eventually look like. The next part of this is the Linux file system directories and their purpose. And by the way, all of this information that you need for this is of course part of the presentation, because the point of the doing this homework is to study. That's the whole purpose of it, study. So I'm gonna click on the Linux file system presentation, and we're just gonna scroll a little bit. And this over here is where you have the definition of each and every one of the folders, right? So all you have to do is take a screenshots here. So I'm gonna open Flameshot, so click on accessories, graphics, and Flameshot right over here. Take a screenshot, and we're just gonna take a screenshot of this part over here. I'm gonna save this inside my CIS-106 week reports, and I'm gonna call this fs 1.1.png, file system 1.1.png. Click on save. Then we're gonna do the same thing with the second screen. And I'm only gonna do 2 as an example. You can do the rest on your own. Okay, then make sure to do this one, and that's about it. So when you get to here, we're gonna leave a space, and we're gonna insert this picture here. I'm gonna put a little line break in between just to make it pretty, and we're gonna call this file system 1, and the image, as you can see over here, is called fs. And if you want to open a little menu to select using the arrow keys, press Control key and the space bar, and that opens that little menu over here. Next, I'm gonna put the second screenshot, same way. File system 2, and this is the picture that I want. And also another line break. Let's do a preview. And as you can see, the image is right there the way it's supposed to be. Let's move on. Finally, the practice in the presentation. Now, this section is a little tricky, so what we're gonna do is, when you get to the command section, you're gonna have a couple of practice to do. So the first one is this one, practice 1. So we're gonna create a subsection underneath this, and we're gonna call this practice 1, practice 2. And I think it's only 3 of them, so I'm just gonna set 3 for now. Practice 3. We have practice 1, practice number 2, and then the challenge question, the challenge part, which is also practice, which is practice number 3. Now, what you're gonna do is, we're gonna go to practice 1, right over here, is you are gonna complete this little practice. So we're gonna open a terminal, so we're gonna click on applications, system tools, and I'm just gonna open Tilix, but you can use terminal. As a matter of fact, let me just open the default terminal for now, and then later on we switch to another one. Open a terminal. Good, we did part 1. What is your current working directory? And as we know from the lecture, whenever we want to know the absolute path of our current directory, we just type pwd. Change your current working directory to home, user, downloads. Okay, so we're going to do cd, home, user. By the way, you can just type your username too if you want. And then downloads. Oops, that is a problem there. There you go. Where are you now? How do you know? Well, pwd. And what method did we use to get to the downloads folder? Well, we use absolute path over here. Now go back one directory. So for that, we're going to use cd and 2 periods. Now go back 2 directories. We're going to do cd, one directory, and then another set of directory. Where are you now? Well, pwd, and we are at the root. Now go back to your previous current working directory. Now to do this, we need to use cd and then hyphen, and that's going to switch up to whatever was our previous current working directory. And as you can see, we were inside home, and now we are there. Now once you're done with this practice, all you have to do is take a screenshot of your terminal, and we're going to save it. And we're going to call this practice 1. As a matter of fact, since there are going to be more practice that we're going to do in the future, let's give this a better name. We're going to call this week report 4 hyphen practice 1. Do the other practice, and then you're going to paste the screenshots over here. So practice 1, and then here the name of the image, which is week report 4 practice 1 .png, as you can see by the name over here. Week report 4, oh, P1, that's the name. Make sure I named this correctly. Perfect. Now let's do a preview to make sure the image is there as it's supposed to be. And yes, as you can see, the image is right over there. Once you have completed this report, you are ready to submit this lab. So we're going to right click and we're going to click on export to PDF. Remember that I do not complete everything in the video. This is an study assignment. You are required to read and study and do it on your own. We have this video so that you can have an example of what kind of work I am looking forward to, and that you can see how the general formatting works in this. Okay, now we'll go after we convert to PDF. We are going to send everything to GitHub. So we're gonna do git pull first. Sorry, pull git add git commit LSM week report 4 complete, and then we're gonna do a push. Remember to do those commands in that specific order. If you have any questions, let me know. Now if we go to GitHub, CIS 106, week reports, week report number 4.md. Here is the file that you need to give me. Now, what you need to submit, remember, the URL to this file, this over here, and then the PDF file, this PDF file of your document. Again, if you have any questions, Slack me, let me know, and I'll be more than happy to help.